All right, we're jumping right into a flashpoint that could literally reshape our world. The situation is developing incredibly fast, and honestly, the implications are just staggering. So I want you to think about this question for a second. This isn't some hypothetical exercise. No, it's the reality of the crisis we're unpacking right now. And the answer? Well, it's going to affect everything, from the price you pay for gas to the entire global balance of power. Just let that number sink in. 25%. A full quarter of all the world's oil and gas squeezes through this one narrow channel. And now, overnight, that channel has been slammed shut. So how in the world did we get here? Let's start with the geographic heart of this whole conflict. For 4 decades, the threat to close the Strait of Hormuz has been, a key part of Iran's playbook. It's a threat a lot of people thought they'd never actually act on. Well, until now. So by declaring the strait closed, Iran has essentially turned this vital waterway into a live war zone. And you can bet that no commercial shipping company is willing to risk its vessels or its crew in that kind of environment. So just like that, the tap's been turned off. The global economy is now officially a weapon in this war. Of course, no conflict ever happens in a vacuum, right? And this one is defined by this incredibly complex web of alliances and old rivalries. And you've got some nations that are just caught in an almost impossible position. On the surface, the lines look pretty clear. You've got Iran on one side, and then a coalition of the US, the UK, and Israel on the other. But as you can imagine, things get a whole lot more complicated when we start looking at the other regional powers. Just think about Pakistan's position for a minute. They've got this strong alliance with Saudi Arabia, but they also share a border and a really friendly relationship with Iran, which happens to be a critical energy partner. So which way are they supposed to turn? According to the analysis, Pakistan is probably going to walk a very careful tightrope. They'll condemn the attacks to keep up diplomatic appearances, but they'll steer clear of any direct military action against their neighbor. It's a strategy of pure, practical neutrality, all driven by their own national interest. And for every move on this giant chessboard, there's always a countermove. To balance out that Pakistan-Saudi relationship, you have this powerful India-Israel partnership that's getting stronger and stronger. And this isn't just about handshakes and diplomacy. We're talking hard power. India is actively trying to get Israel's advanced air defense systems, and that just deepens their military ties and pulls another huge global power right into this incredibly tense situation. Okay, so beyond the countries doing the actual fighting, you've got two global powers playing a very different kind of game. It's a game of strategic patience, where they actually stand to gain the most by staying on the sidelines. You are not going to see China or Russia jumping into this fight directly. No way. Instead, they're going to provide crucial indirect support. We're talking Russia with advanced missiles, China with its massive tech industry, giving everything from satellite intelligence to cyber warfare help. See, their goal isn't necessarily for Iran to win, but to make sure the West doesn't win quickly or easily. The plan is to just bleed their rivals of resources and attention. They're playing the long game. For them, the end game is pretty simple. A long, messy, drawn-out war that drains American and European military and economic power. It distracts them, weakens their global influence, and creates a vacuum that China, with its long-term strategy of a peaceful rise, is perfectly positioned to step into. And this brings us to the most terrifying possibility of all. When you have great powers involved, and the stakes are this high, the thing you hoped never happens suddenly becomes thinkable. There's this chilling domino effect that could start to happen, all beginning with one side feeling like they're backed into a corner in the conventional fight. Let's trace this path to the absolute unthinkable. So there are two main tripwires here. The first is if Israel feels it's facing a true existential threat, like it's actually losing the conventional war. It might then decide to use a so-called tactical nuclear weapon. Now, these are smaller battlefield devices, but using one would shatter a 75-year-old taboo. The second tripwire, Iran sinks a U.S. aircraft carrier. Look, that's not just a military loss, it's a profound symbolic blow to American power and pride. In that situation, the pressure on a U.S. president to retaliate with nuclear weapons would be absolutely immense. So no matter how this conflict ends, one thing is for sure, the world that comes after will not look the same. The very foundations of global security are being shaken to their core. Because this isn't just a regional war, it's a catalyst for a completely new global setup. And the analysis we're looking at points to two major possibilities for what that new world order could look like. Okay, so one outcome is the rise of a powerful new bloc led by Eastern powers. Just picture it for a second. China, Russia, Iran, Pakistan, and maybe even a real aligned Saudi Arabia, all coming together to form a new security agreement that basically pushes Western influence right out of the region. But if that new bloc doesn't form, and the West doesn't manage to get a clear win, the alternative is just as world-changing. You'd see nations all across the Middle East, realizing their old alliances can't protect them, rush to develop their own nuclear weapons. It becomes the ultimate security guarantee when all else fails. And that leaves us with the final, absolutely critical question. This conflict isn't just about who wins or loses a war. It's about who gets to define the future. Who will write the rules for the new world order?